Away Days is back again. Come on.
I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the hind to throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, find a rider. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the hind.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loading Mag NUFC. We are back again for another Away Days preview. The big match preview is here again. These games are thick and fast and they don't stop. And of course, we keep rolling with the Newcastle United boys. And it's an absolute pleasure to have the main man, the old Brandon Blaze, in the house, Mr. Chris Hall.
We need to get it. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
How's things, fella? How you doing?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm good. Long day in work today, but all sorted. I'm off tomorrow, so I'm made up. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have a Northern girl on tonight. So it'll be nice to hear from Natalie to talk all things Burnley. And really looking forward to tonight's show. Obviously, we'll both have one eye on PSG on Wednesday, but more importantly, we need to try and get 3 points this weekend to keep this little mini run that we're going on.
You are absolutely right, mate. And look, it'd be rude not to quickly talk about the fantastic result, Newcastle United into the next round of the cup after beating Man City last night 1-0. But look, what are your quick thoughts on the game? Because you weren't on, unfortunately, you weren't able to make the watch along. What are your thoughts on the game and thoughts on this man, Tino Livramento?
Like, he was the standout for me. I thought he was brilliant. Like, I thought he had a reasonably good first half, in terms of obviously it was backs to the wall in that first half, wasn't it? And trying to make sure Man City didn't score. And then when we come out second half, we saw the Tino Livramento that we know, we've got on our hands, bombing forwards, lung busting runs. And when we were doing that high press for a good 10-15 minutes early on in the second half, Tino Livramento was a big part of that. And it just I don't know, it just made me excited thinking that, when Kieran Trippier is at a point where, he can't play week in, week out, to have someone like him as the understudy who's 21, it's pretty exciting. But yeah, overall, after, absolutely delighted. Great to knock a team of the caliber of Man City out. And yes, everyone knew that we were going to end up with a difficult, an equally difficult tie in the next round. But I tell you what, if we beat Man City and then we go and beat Man United, why not? Why not? I'm all for a difficult running, because it just builds confidence.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Fantastic result against Man City, against a strong Man City as well. Not the strongest, but still strong enough. There's no complaints there. There's no excuses from that side of things. But yeah, really, really impressive performance. And like you said, Old Trafford on the 31st, I believe, or the week of the 30th of October. And why not go and get the result? But you're absolutely right, Chris. Let's get back to basics, back to the bread and butter. The Premier League is where we need to gain our points. And there's another massive game again this weekend. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome in our guests, because of always, it's not really quite Away Days if we don't have the opposition's view. We say it every week, and it's a pleasure to welcome Natalie Bromley from the No Name Never. Got that right, I think. Burnley podcast. So let's bring her in. Welcome, Natalie. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is very exciting. A new show. I've not met you guys before. It's nice to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you. And we have done some stuff with No Nay Never before the last time you're in the Premier League, but not with yourself. So it's a pleasure to have you on the channel. And look, from a Burnley point of view, we'll start with Burnley, new to the Premier League, back up with this man. I'll pop him on the screen, Vincent Kompany. Look, just what has he done for your club, Mr. Vincent Kompany? Because there were question marks when he took the job that people outside of Burnley thought that it's not the right move, not the right time, didn't go as well as he wanted at Anderlecht. What's he done?
He has taken an old and tired brand of football, and he has made it relevant for 2023 whilst maintaining its community roots. I think that's probably, in a nutshell, how I would. And it's not just Kompany as well. I think we've had a change from top to bottom. So the old guard, the Premier League years that you knew from just 12 months ago. We had a local board of businessmen who did things their way, and that was the right way to do things. Very small-minded in some respects, not particularly ambitious, not particularly modern. We had a manager who, as successful and a legend he absolutely was a very specific way of playing football. Liked his players. We had an English way of championship footballers who played in a certain way, and I felt that as a club we'd gone quite stale. I don't think our reputation was particularly good. We weren't a brand that people wanted to invest in, either financially or emotionally, and we were starting to fall away, I think, a little bit in terms of relevance. The club was sold. ALK Capital, our American owners, came in, Alan Pace, big tech giants, really forward thinking, bit American, but that's okay because you kind of roll with their enthusiasm, even if you know that it's a little bit cheesy or it won't come to fruition. They get very, very enthusiastic, and they brought in a modern manager who matched their modern way of thinking on the pitch. So just essentially the message is just rip up that book of everything that you thought you knew about Burnley, because this new generation of Burnley Football Club is very different to the one that you left behind, and it's exciting. I'm really excited, even if it takes us a few years. I like where we're heading.
Yeah, Chris, like, listen to what Natalie's saying there. It's really interesting because you like, from an outside point of view, you have kind of a mindset of Burnley, the way they play, the way they set up. But it's almost like, ripping that sort of, the old style, the old school way of playing and ripping it up and making it sort of more modern, like you said, you're making it 2023 relevant, which I thought was an interesting point. Look, what have you made of Burnley since they've returned into the Premier League with Vincent Kompany?
Do you know what? I actually really enjoy watching Burnley. And sorry, Natalie, I've not always enjoyed really enjoying watching Burnley.
That's quite right. We had to watch it for 10 years. Believe me, yeah. I feel your pain.
yeah, no, absolutely. But no, I think it's great, and he's brought that fresh enthusiasm, hasn't he? Someone in the chat, and I'm sure we'll get to the question later, was talking about the Burnley documentary, and I thought Vincent Kompany came across really well in it. An absolute mountain of a centre back, a Premier League legend, if you like, and he's come in with these new ideas, and he's brought in a new philosophy for Burnley, and I think, as you say, he's brought them into a new era, and now Burnley is starting to play some really nice football, and they're a good football inside and good to watch. Different proposition than what you would previously expect to come up against with a side like Burnley, but I think it's really good. And do you know what, Natalie, I don't know your thoughts on this, and maybe I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but even if it doesn't pan out for you the way that you're hoping for this season, surely the future's looking bright. And I hope you keep hold of Kompany, and I hope that you try and persist with him, because what he's trying to bring and what he's trying to do is exciting. And I'm hoping you do well this season, but I think that it can only be a good thing for you going forward to have someone like him who is just going to lift the level of the club.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. I think, let's be realistic here. Vincent Kompany is not going to be at Burnley Football Club long term. He just isn't. He is a winner. He's ambitious. He will be a Champions League manager at some point. People talk about him going to City. He's not going to follow Pep to City. He's way too far behind that level yet. There'll be one, if not two or three managers in between Pep and Kompany. But maybe that's where his future goes at some point. But he will manage a top 6, top 4 side. He absolutely will. He talks internally with us of having a 5-year plan. So he has every intention to be here. I guess what goes in our favour is that Burnley is still one of those clubs that he has a great degree of control in terms of what he wants to do. So he can, you saw in the documentary his influence in the boardroom. He's got a very sensible business brain as well as a technical brain on the pitch. He's already pitching to the board about front-loading players ready to sell. He wants to be able to sell every single summer to get the funds coming in, because he recognises that Burnley's main asset base has got to be their players, because commercially we're not going to get multi-millions invested in us. So he thinks in a completely different level to a lot of traditional managers. That's very attractive. And our first challenge will be this Christmas, when some sides that are struggling in the Premier League do the first round of managerial sacking. Dyche may very well go from Everton. I mean, he managed to get a decent win last week, but he's one of the favourites to go first. West Ham, those kind of players, they will come in for him. So I'm not naive enough to think we'll have him long term, but I do agree with you. I do hope we get him for at least 3 years. If we don't, what he's done is made Burnley much more attractive for a different calibre of manager to come in, even possibly a European manager to come in, which we would have never have seen before. The club that Dyche left wasn't attractive for players or managers to come in. So I do hope he does. But this is what I guess the last point on this before we move on to the next point is, there's no pressure at Burnley. There never has been. That's why Dyche lasted as long as he did. We are ambitious, but also realistic as to the challenges of football when you are a town team in a club like Burnley. If we go down this year, we go down. We've been in the Championship. We absolutely walked it last season. We'll come back up again. The last 3 seasons in the Championship, we went through playoffs second and won it twice. Last 4 seasons, sorry. So we can get out the Championship, and if we have to go up and down to achieve the goal, I'm all right with that. We're not going to start jumping up and down and calling for managers' heads because we might get relegated from the Premier League this season. We probably will, and that's okay.
Mad respect for that, 100%. And yeah, it's all about sort of building again, and those kind of things take time. We know more than anyone from Newcastle perspective with our takeover in a slightly different situation. But what we're finding now, and Chris, you probably might agree with this, and people in the chat might agree with this as well, Newcastle fans, is that all the clubs around us, the Man Cities, the Arsenals, the Liverpools, they're all putting pressure on us now and saying, we have to do this. We have to get Champions League. We have to win a trophy. And we're going, hold on a second.
No, we don't.
You might think we need to do that, but us as Newcastle fans, we don't need to. Like, we don't need that sort of pressure. We know where our club's going and where we're at.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I understand exactly what you're saying. That's for sure.
External noise in the Premier League is massive. That's the biggest challenge with the Premier League, especially with clubs like ours that are a town team that have got strong links to the community. You go from being a smaller club and the local press and your media, you control that narrative. You go into the Premier League and it's a global press and it's clickbait and it's 24-hour news cycle. And suddenly you're reading these headlines and going like, what on earth are you talking about? And it's just that discomfort when your club's narrative gets taken away from you and gets manipulated for clicks. And you've got to just recognize that that's all it is and not take it too personally, I think.
Yeah. I agree, 100%. So many in the chat already. Great to see you in there. If you haven't already, make sure you click that like, click the subscribe button to Loading Mag, NUFC, and obviously No Name Never as well. And on cue, Chris on the button as well. Get those likes and those comments in. And I have to say, Natalie, the comments for you are flying in. So there are questions.
Oh, gosh.
Questions flying in, which we would definitely get to at some point. Or should we throw a few at Natalie now, Chris? What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can start with this one because this is the one that I alluded to earlier, Natalie, and it's
Yeah.
from Geordie Toon for Life. And he says, question for Natalie, what do you think of the Burnley documentary? Personally, I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, it was great. I'm actually in season 2, so watch out for that. I sit on the fan advisory board at Burnley, so I've signed up my life away and all of the disclosures, and the camera's always around. So I think first and foremost, it took me back a little bit that somebody would want to do a documentary about Burnley. And again, I think this is going back to the point that I said before. Does somebody want to do a documentary about Daesh and Mike Gorlick and a declining club in East Lancashire? Probably not. And I think the pull of ALK, JJ Watt's huge American football superstar, and his wife as well, they're now part owners of the club, so that they're a massive pull. And Vincent Kompany, people are interested in us. I just thought it was really well done. I liked the angle of making it about the chairman. I thought they were very generous in what they opened up to and what they allowed themselves to be exposed to. Even that whole section where they'd got the accounts wrong and we'd got a transfer embargo last season, the fact that the 4 owners were sat in a broom cupboard at Turf going, what did we miss? What did we do wrong? There was a vulnerability about their first season as American owners of an English football club and getting things wrong that they allowed to be showed that I thought was quite charming. And I think that to me means, you don't necessarily need to have local owners to be able to retain that of who you are as a little club who will get things wrong. I thought Kompany came across very, very well. I guess if I'm going to have any, not criticism, constructive criticism, I would have liked to have seen more of the players. The owners and the manager are very important, but fans buy players. That's who we get emotionally invested in. It's the players. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the dressing room and their journey. But other than that, I thought it was great.
Yeah. Another one from Geordie Toon for Life, which I think is a really good question. What do you think of Daesh as a manager again, like versus Kompany? And also, you've drawn Everton in the cup, and will Daesh get a good reception from the travelling fans?
Second question first. Absolutely. Sean Dyche getting sacked as Burnley manager and Sean Dyche being rightly taking his place as a legend of the club and one of the most successful managers of our time are not mutually exclusive. Both can exist. His time at the club had come to a natural end. He'd been at the club a decade. He had a specific style of football that worked for a very long time, but it was always very results orientated. It did a job to try and keep us in the Premier League as long as possible until we could try and kick on. We never did kick on. We just recycled every season. We didn't invest. We didn't progress. Daesh's football was no longer effective because he didn't have a plan B. He's quite a one-dimensional manager, which is not a criticism. That's just his style. And my goodness, I hadn't realised. I used to get quite offended when people say, like, Burnley are horrible to watch. I'd be like, how very dare you? That's my club. And then I started watching Vincent Kompany football and went, oh, okay. Yeah, I get it now. I'd forgotten until last season just how much we'd been missing entertaining football. There is, in every one of us who supports a football club, there is a fan in you and there is a supporter in you. The supporter in you will always be results orientated. The survival of the club, the survival in your league, winning games, getting enough points to stay in the Premier League, winning enough games to win the Championship, winning the FA Cup, going in the League Cup, whatever it is, it's results orientated. And it's amazing what you will accept for that result, i.e. 10 years of watching Daesh ball, because it did very, very well. The fan in you recognises that football is an entertainment sport, and you also pay your money on a Saturday afternoon or Monday night or whenever we play nowadays to be entertained for 90 minutes. You want to watch good football. You want to watch the entertaining passes. You want the flicks, the volleys, the mad goals. You want that. It's a pastime. And I think that's how I recognise it. I think life under Daesh was the supporter in me. Life under Kompany is, particularly last season when we ran away with the Championship, was both the supporter and the fan, both of which can survive quite comfortably. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I think that is a very fair response, actually, because you're right, they're not mutually exclusive, are they? No. You can have a bit of both.
Yeah. We live in a world where everything has to be polar opposites. You have to take one side of the fence. You don't we can have everything. We can have the same opinion and opposite opinions. It's quite fine. Rip that band-aid off.
and talking of the same opinions, because I kind of felt like this as well, and I'm sure Pete probably did. Well, Pete, tell me if you didn't, but Michael Pomar says, how much fun was last season winning every week? Was it a nice break from the seasons of the struggle of the Premier League? And does that make the possibility of going back down this year more palatable?
Yes, and yes. Listen, the Championship is a great league. It's just a challenging league because there's no money, there's no press exposure, there's no brand, and nobody cares about it. But you've got to remember that literally millions of fans watch the EFL, the Championship and Leagues 1 and 2 every single season and have an absolutely brilliant time there. It's not all about the Premier League. Yes, that's the elite league. That's where the money and exposure is. And that's where ultimately, as professional sportsmen, you want to be up there. Olympians don't ever go in for silver or gold or to place. They go for silver or bronze, they go for gold. And it's the same analogy. Dropping down to the Championship was painful at first just because there was a fear in us as Burnley fans that was our one shot and we were having to cling on to life in the Premier League because we were never going to get up again. Obviously, that's a nonsense now. You look at it, so you were a bit more comfortable with that. But the Championship is also, there's a reality to the Championship as well now. The Championship is a great league when you've just been relegated. You've got Vincent Kompany as your manager. You can spend £60 million on 16 new players. You can win every week, playing amazing football and win the league at Ewood Park. Then it's a great league. Ask Middlesbrough, Ipswich, those kind of low, Preston, Blackburn, now Norwich and Watford, who didn't go up last year, how they think the Championship is when the parachute money's gone down, where they're having to stick in that division and it's not as fun. So there is a reality to the Championship. I think if you're going to be a yo-yo club and you've got the power and the money, essentially we were the city of the Championship last season, which was great. Now the tables have turned. It's really hard. But the DNA of the English pyramid football season is that you can't enjoy the highs without experiencing the lows. So last season was really great because we'd had relegation and we'd had 5 or 6 years of clinging onto the Premier League for dear life. This season will be tough, but that's the journey. That's part of who it is. So it's I'd rather not go down next season, to be honest, but because I'd like to keep hold of company. But so be it. It's not the end of the world if it happens.
Pete, did you enjoy the Championship season? Oh, well, I know we've had 2, but the most recent one. Did you enjoy it?
I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed both. For the reasons why is that we were the best team in the league for both seasons. And it was great to go and watch games. And the second season in particular, me and Lowell went to quite a few games together. I remember Barnsley away.
Barnsley was a great away day.
Never been to Barnsley before ever in my life. And I went on, I think it was a Wednesday night. We ended up winning 2-0. Gale bagged, I think, a couple of goals, actually. Definitely got the second. And there was 5,000 of us. We took the whole of the back behind the goal. And it was just like, we're fucking class. We are fucking class. You know what I mean?
It's such a good feeling, isn't it? It's like, we're amazing. Yeah.
It was great.
And then you weirdly get beat away at Blackpool or something the week after, and you go, what is this nonsense in this league? I don't understand it. Yeah.
But it was the Forest game. It was a Forest game under Rafa where we got 2 players sent off. Darlow saves 2 penalties. And it's just what is going on here? Any other day, we would wipe the floor with Forest, and I think they ended up winning the game. It was just like, what?
Was that the Henry Lansbury game, Pete, where everyone was gunning for Henry Lansbury and everyone just hated him?
Well, they hated him. They hated him after that, but that's why they hated him.
That's because of that
why
game.
The hatred started, and it continued because he went to Villa, and we still hated him then. And then he scored the goal that ended up helping us get promoted. But it's just because you just feel on top of the world there. For those seasons, I'm like, Premier League. What Premier League? I care about Premier League. It's all about the Championship. But I did enjoy it. But you do feel when you're in the Premier League there is you've talked about it already, Natalie. But you do feel a sense of everyone's talking about it. It's the place to be. You kind of want to stay there, but you've got to have a bit of like reality about it. And it's just that's just the way it is. But I just want to before, because I know we've not got you for very long, so I just want to.
All right, we've got at least another 15-20 minutes left. Yeah, we're fine. Yeah, let's keep going. Yeah, I've been kind of doing things in the background. I'm sorry if I'm multitasking, guys. I've been trying to put off a couple of meetings till afterwards, so we've got a good 15-20 minutes left yet. So let's keep going.
Cool.
Brilliant stuff. Well, something you may not want to see, unfortunately, is the league table at the moment.
I changed my mind. I've got to go. See ya.
I thought you would say that. But it's not best reading at the moment. But I don't know. From my perspective, with some of the football that you've played, it hasn't. I don't think it's had sort of like a true reflection. In particular, and I've got some of your results up here. But going back to that Man United game, I thought you were full value for at least a point in that game. I don't think Man United played well at all. But what have you made of your start to the season? Some of those results, they're not all on the screen there, but some of those results in the Premier League in particular. You know, what have you made of that start?
I think you absolutely have to look at the teams that we've played before you have any conversations about Burnley's start to the season. Yes, the table says 5 games, 1 point, about 45 goals conceded or something stupid. But look at who we've played. We have so far played 3 home ties against City, Villa, Spurs. We then went away to Forest. They're not going to be a relegation banker. They'll be down there, but they're not one of the favourites. That's a hard place to go. And then we played Manchester United at home. Now, in any regular season, even if we were in our 5th consecutive season in the Premier League, always finishing 13th, 14th, how many points would you expect us to get from those? 1 or 3, of course. I guess the one thing that's slightly preying on my mind a little bit, if we write off City, Spurs and Villa, Forest away, we should have won. Still not over that disallowed goal yet. That was a ridiculous handball decision. But then equally, a draw was probably a fair result, which is a bit of a weird one. That is a worse result for Forest than it is for us. A point away in a game is a good point. That's a bad result for Forest because equally they should be winning their home games against a side like Burnley to try and survive as well. So that's fine. I guess then, weirdly, the one that we should be looking at is that United game. United, I don't know what has gone on with them. It's the first time I've seen them play properly in a while. And all of the commentary about that side is completely true. They look lost. They look like mentally weak, and they'd no clear structure. And we were, and I'm not just saying this with claret tinted glasses, I thought for vast majority of the game we were by far the better side. Took one absolute worldie from Fernandes to break the deadlock, and we couldn't get back into the game. So I guess that worries me a little bit because in previous seasons where we've survived, we've always had the ability to get some bonus points from games that we shouldn't get any points from. Did we lose that opportunity at home against United? Yes, I think we did. Amdouni scored, missed a sitter quite early on in the game. That would have changed it. So it's a worry that we didn't quite have the ruthlessness in us to be able to convert that to at least a point. That said, I don't think we're in. I think we're at worst 2 points behind where we would be. The impact of that is I'm not really sure we're in a good position to analyse exactly where Burnley are this season, because we've not yet played any of the sides that are going to be around us, bottom half sides, even from 10th downwards. So I'd say maybe just give it. We play you guys on the weekend, which, considering what you did to Sheffield United last week, I'm not feeling too great about that anymore. And then we play Chelsea with Luton sandwiched in between. But then after that, our games start getting more, I don't like the term winnable. I'd say more evenly balanced in terms of ability. Judge us after maybe 5 of those games and let's see where we are. If we've lost a load of them, then we're absolutely going down. But you just simply can't judge where we are, table or not, after those 5 games. It's impossible. We've only played 1 game that we could have competed in.
Chris, I've got to say, with Natalie kind of reading off some of those fixtures there, that's a tough start. Like, we had a tough start on ourselves. Like, I think we're probably sitting here now with both clubs having probably some of the toughest starts in the Premier League. Are you surprised by that? Because I know I am, 100%.
Yeah, and do you know what? And I think I like how Natalie's kind of viewed it, because let's be honest, a point away at Nottingham Forest, you might look at it and go, "Oh, they should be winning that," but Natalie's right when she says that Nottingham Forest will be more upset about that than what Burnley will, because any point away from home in the Premier League is a good point. So, I completely agree with what Natalie said there about Forest being upset, because Forest will feel that's 2 points dropped, whereas it's a point gained for Burnley away at Forest. And so some difficult teams. And let's be honest, and Natalie, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think we're all quite shocked at how Spurs have started. Like, Spurs have really come out the blocks. So that is a really, really tough game. And Man United are Man United. Like, they're not playing well. They're in a bad place at the moment, and long may that continue. But on their day,
top 6 though.
Yeah, exactly. And on their day, they can, they can, and they can turn up and get 3 points and put a performance in. And in fairness, Natalie, when you probably would go towards the game, or you were looking at the game, you're probably thinking, oh, we might not get anything. It's just disappointing that you didn't actually get anything, because you, like you say, you did deserve it.
Yeah.
But it's so early on. And things take time. And I think KOMPANY can, put a run together, because in the Premier League, as we know, you get 3, 4, 5, 6 games, go on a nice little run. All of a sudden, you're pulling away from the bottom, and then the other teams are panicking, and you're putting the pressure on them.
Yeah, that's so true. And actually, what you've got to look at as well, if you look at those sides around us who should be our relegation rivals, look at the they've all played a game more than we have, apart from us and Luton, because we've got to play each other. That was the game that got postponed because of Luton's ground progress. Those teams, our peers around us at the bottom, have not met any of the big, or maybe 1, 2 at most of the bigger sides. They, particularly Daesh and Everton, they had a dream start, which is why the pressure's on him. And they've got 1 win and 1 point. They've got 4 points from their opening 5 fixtures. And those teams around us have now got to start playing the Cities, Uniteds, Spurs, Chelsea. Like, they've got to play those big sides. We've got them out of the way. So actually, they've not taken advantage of easier starts, which should help us, I think.
Should balance it, shouldn't it? Should balance things out.
Natalie, I'm not gonna lie, I'm praying for it. I'm banking on it. I'm banking on the fact that Everton have had all their easier games now in the beginning of the season, and now they're going to get hammered by all the big boys, and they're going to be left adrift.
Because if they don't go down, it's probably going to be us. So purely in the interest of self-preservation, I'd quite like Everton to get relegated. Sorry.
And I know for a fact, and like I know Chris agrees. Your household might not agree, Chris, but you agree in that the Everton. It's time. It's time
to go, isn't it?
They need a reset. They are. I recognise in that side what we were going through, maybe to a less extreme level, but they need a clear out. They need to reset. They need to sell the club. They just need to start again. And actually, I think what's stopping them from doing it is that I think they've got this concern that because they've never not been in the top flight, it seems like it's a massive deal. It's like, well, guys, like, people get relegated all the time. It's absolutely fine. You'll come back up again. Look at Leicester. Leicester have just gone down. They were up. Leeds. It's like, you're not the only side to have ever got relegated. It's going to be a good thing for you, not a bad thing. So I think they just need to get that chip off their shoulder of like, oh, we can't possibly be a disaster if we get relegated. We never have been. It's fine. Get over yourselves. You'll be fine.
There we go. But look, just another call. Got well over 100 in the chat. Thank you for coming in, joining with the chat this evening. But we've only got 40 likes. Come on, there's over 100 in the chat.
Like.
Everyone, click that like now and show support for Loaded Mag NUFC on the way to 7K, and of course, No Nay Never podcast as well. Give them a subscribe and watch their content as well. You touched on it before, Natalie, and we'll come back to it again. Obviously, you mentioned about the fact that Newcastle, we went to Bramall Lane and we put 8 past Sheffield United. It was in my opinion, and Chris, you'll probably agree with this. We were due a big win. I don't think we ever expected the amount of goals that we did score on Sunday. But just that, you talked about it worrying you. what have you made of Newcastle this season, and what are your thoughts about coming up to St James's Park at the weekend?
I was quite surprised at the weird start that you had, to be honest. I think most people just assumed that you would just carry on where you left off last season. The team hasn't fundamentally changed that much. The manager hasn't changed. I'm sorry, I'm not a massive Eddie Howe fan, but that is the stubborn football fan in me talking. He used to be our manager. Have you forgotten that? He used to be our manager. Yeah, he walked out on us. So he came to Burnley a few years ago and stayed for about 4 or 5 months. Went, I don't like this, I'm missing home, and went back to Bournemouth again, where we poached him from. So football fans don't forget. So there's just some kind of weird stubbornness about that, where I just don't like the guy. He left us in a horrible phase because he just didn't like it up north. How can you not like it up north? And then goes to Newcastle, who's also north. Like, okay. Anyway, so but then for balance, you've got Nick Pope and Kieran Trippier, who will always be Clarets. So, it evens itself out very well. Get rid of Eddie Howe and I'll be much happier. But I think from an outsider looking in, it still feels to me that Eddie Howe's an interim manager. I think your ownership have got, and forgive me if this is stereotyping the club, but it's always felt to me that the ownership have great ambitions for Newcastle on a Champions League and global scale. It feels like they'd like a more headline European jazzier manager. They just couldn't get rid of Eddie Howe because he came in and he's done a fantastic job and he's got them into the Champions League. So they kind of went, oh, okay, well, we can't sack the guy. Look at what he's done. I do think the minute that things get tough or results don't go his way, I think that he'll just go and he's an interim manager. So that to me always puts me in a weird frame of mind with Newcastle. I always see you as in an interim phase, albeit one that's performing very, very well. I thought last season you were fantastic. I've not seen enough of you this season. It's been a weird start to be able to assess where you are with that. I thought Villa, from what I've seen of you this season, I think at the moment Villa were performing stronger but I think there's not much in that. And I think you've got the ability to overtake them again. They're maybe where you were last season. But I think you're rightly challenging for top 4 and top 6 again. And I think Newcastle and Villa are displacing some of those old, powerful 6 and 4 teams that have maybe taken their eye off the ball. And I think in terms of the Premier League brand, that's a really good thing, because it's City winning everything every year is not good for football. The same 4 sides at the top isn't good for football. So if you can get the likes of Villa and Newcastle and Brighton to a lesser extent around the European field to push those teams and to make the top 6 in the Champions League look different, what a great thing. That's a good thing.
No, definitely. I agree. Chatters, community, don't worry. We still love Eddie. We still love Eddie. So we're everything's all good. I don't think we've had anyone on there that's actually talked quite negatively about Eddie.
It's purely because he left us. If he'd never been Burnley manager, I would not have a thing to say about him. But football fans are fickle, and he came to us and did nothing when he was with us, and then just left after 4 months or whatever, and just went, nah, not for me. And it's like, yeah, we don't forget things like that. So I think there's a justifiable dislike of Eddie Howe there.
And you bigged up Kieran Trippier and Nick Pope, who have both of them been fantastic, sensational.
Yeah.
Since they've come to Newcastle, and they are very much loved by all of us as well. Right. We've got you for a little bit, maybe a little bit more. So I'm gonna go to match day, and I want to, before you go, get at least your lineup of what you think is going to be your lineup. But before
I wrote it down. You told me to
before we get to that. We'll hear just a few stats.
Darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand. Creatures crawl in search of blood to terrorize your neighborhood. And whosoever shall be found without the soul for getting down must stand and face the hounds of hell and rot inside a corpse's shell. The foulest stench is in the air, the funk of 40,000 years, and grisly ghouls from every tomb are closing in to seal your doom. And though you fight to stay alive, your body starts to shiver, for no mere mortal can resist the evil of the thriller.
Evening.
I like magic. He appears. Double O Stato, or Statman Keith Roll, Dr. Doom, as some people call him, for his predictions. But he's here to give us some stats on Burnley and Newcastle. How are you doing, Keith?
Not so bad. Are you well?
Very, very well. Very, very good. Thank you. And so, what stats have you got for us for this game today? Let's say today on Saturday against Burnley.
Yeah, I've got a load of stats here tonight. Quite a few stats on the head-to-head, managerial stats, some stats on both sets of players, and then a load of general stats to round off. So Newcastle's record against Burnley, all-time record is played 112, won 47, drawn 21, and lost 44. So quite similar head-to-head, not much in it there. But the Premier League record at St James's Park, Newcastle have played 6 against Burnley. They've won 3 and they've drawn 3. Burnley have never won at St James's in the league. They did win the cup clash last year in the Carabao Cup. Newcastle have got the slightly better attacking record in this fixture in the Premier League, 17 goals compared to Burnley's 11 and 12 Premier League games. And both teams have managed 3 clean sheets in this fixture as well in the Premier League. Eddie Howe, his record against Burnley, he's managed 12 games against Burnley, won 4, drawn 2, and lost 6. Vincent Kompany, he was undefeated in games he played against Newcastle as a player. He had 12 wins and 2 draws in 14 when he played for Man City. And as a manager, he was undefeated in games against Northeast teams as well. He's won 3 and he drew 1 against Sunderland and Middlesbrough last season in the Championship. Moving on to players, Callum Wilson, he's scored 6 goals and has 1 goal score and assist in 11 games against Burnley. Alexander Isak, he's scored 4 goals in 6 games in this season for Newcastle. His goal against Man City last night was his first as well in cup competitions for Newcastle. Kieran Trippier, he's assisted 6 headed goals in the Premier League in 2023, and that's 2 more than any other player. He's also, his last 7 assists have all been headers, which is the longest run in the Premier League since Matt Ritchie, believe it or not, from 2017 to 2019. On the Burnley players, Mohamed Zeki Amdouni and Lyle Foster are the 2 top goal scorers for Burnley so far this season, with 2 goals each. Goalkeepers, Nick Pope, he's managed to keep 4 clean sheets in 8 games for Newcastle, whilst James Trafford, he hasn't kept a clean sheet yet for Burnley in 5 this season. Onto the general stats. Burnley have lost 4 home games this season. First 4 home games in the league for the first time. They've just had the 1 point from the first 5 of the last 3 Premier League campaigns. For the 5th time in 9 seasons for Burnley in the Premier League, they've failed to win any of their opening 5. So there is hope there for Burnley that, given that previous form in previous seasons where they managed to stay up. Burnley made 633 passes in their last Premier League game against Manchester United. 558 was successful. So both those figures are the highest ever recorded in the Premier League match. So Burnley are probably improved, getting better there and playing well. Certainly only lose 1-0 against Man United on Friday. Against Sheffield United, Newcastle recorded their biggest ever away win in the league, and it was the largest overall since beating the other Sheffield team, Sheffield Wednesday, back in September 1999. Newcastle also were the first side in Premier League history to have 8 different players who scored in the same match, excluding own goals. Burnley's away record is better than their home record this season. Away from home, they've won 2 games against Nottingham Forest and Salford in the League Cup, and they've drawn as well against Forest in the league. But as we've touched on earlier, they've lost the home games this season. If Newcastle beat Burnley this weekend, it'll equal their best ever winning record against Burnley of 5 wins in a row, which was set between 1929 and 1935. And Burnley are winless in their last 9 away games against Newcastle, 4 draws and 5 defeats since a 1-0 win in April 1976. And that rounds off the stats this evening.
Bad stats as always, Keith. Excellent stuff. Brilliant stuff as always, and some really interesting stats there for both clubs, which is why we like to get that feel for the stats in there as well. So, what I wanted to do, Natalie, is get your opinion on your lineup. So I'm going to share the screen just for a second. So I know we haven't got you for too much longer. So hopefully you can see the screen on there, and we've got Burnley's squad across the bottom. So just in your opinion, how are you? Who's going to start for you in your opinion, and how are you going to set up?
Yeah, before we do this, just very quickly, I've just been while we're doing those stats, I've just been reading through some of the comments on there. It's really interesting to hear Newcastle fans quite a passionate view that Eddie Howe's not an interim manager. And it's really interesting. Do you remember what I said at the beginning of the show about outside narrative being taken away from you? Yeah. Non-Newcastle fans, it's fed into us all the time that Eddie Howe, the owners want a jazzy new manager and blah, blah, blah. And it's really nice to see that support from his home supporters saying he absolutely isn't. He's a top-class manager. He'll be there for the next 5 years. That support from inside is really, really important. But it's really interesting to see, like, for us as outsiders, I'd fallen down that rabbit hole of listening to what has been fed to us as opposition fans. I found those really interesting to read. Right, on to our game. Trafford, goal.
He's been a good signing for you guys, hasn't he?
He has. I remain. He's very young and he's very inexperienced for now. I would have preferred to put Muric in as a starter, but that guy's pure Hollywood as well. He like chips players in his own box and runs into playing midfield if he wants to, and that would have been. I think Vincent Kompany was a bit scared, so put Trafford in. But he's been touted as being Pickford's replacement as England #1. So he should be really good. Connor Roberts at right back, 14. Put Charlie Taylor at left back.
Where is he?
He should be number 3, maybe. He's one of the fringe players, or he was until we failed to sign a left back. So you've not even got him. I've not even got him.
I've not, and I looked through the whole squad and he wasn't even
number
there.
Number 3 is Charlie Taylor.
Don't worry, we could add him in.
Number 3, squad number 3, Charlie Taylor. Poor Charlie. Not only
he's been there for a while, hasn't he? Charlie
he used to play for Leeds, and he's one of the 4 surviving Dutch
players. Is he centre back?
No,
right back. Left back. Sorry, left back.
Yes, left back. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
My brain's went. It's all right. Send him in. And he shouldn't have been playing a role, but we failed to. Did you press cancel then instead of save? You did.
Oh my God. Okay. Don't worry. We'll get him in. We'll get him in. Let me go back.
Charlie, is there? Look, you've got him already. Is there? Look.
Oh yeah. No. I did. Yeah. He's probably at the top. There he is.
Oh yeah, there he is. Excellent. So put him. Yeah. Centre off. Put Jordan Bayer and Alder Keel. So Jordan Bayer's number 5. Alder Keel's 28.
Okay. Yep.
Jordan, but swap them around. The other sides, I suppose it doesn't matter, but just for balance. We're going to go for a midfield 3 of Josh Cullen, 24.
Centre,
Josh Brown,
right, left.
yeah, put him in the middle. Put Josh Brownhill on the left, and put Aaron Ramsey on the right.
I don't know why Aaron Ramsey hasn't got a number.
21. He's only just joined us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put Luca Collioshaw on the right. Put Zeki Amdouni right at the top as a number 9. He's squad number 25.
Where is he? There we go.
There.
Whereabouts?
Yeah, put him right up. Yeah, put him as a centre forward as a number 9.
Okay.
And then put.
But if any of you need more help, then you know where I am. Usually prompt them to do
Put. We have got in here because this is where we would normally have Goodmunson, but he's gone off injured. Put Sander Berge on the left, but kind of behind, a bit further in. Yeah, more of a slightly number 10 role.
Oh, interesting.
More in here.
Yeah, but he will pull out to the side. Maybe do we swap those around? No, swap them around. Put Collioshaw on the other side and put Sander Berge on the right. Yeah, do that. It's kind of like a 4-3-3, but with Sander Berge playing more of a number 10 role. It's going to be a bit of a weird one because Lyle Foster's injured. Is suspended, and Goodmunson, who we would normally expect to put on there, is injured as well. So I think it's going to look something like that, a 4-3-3. That's what I think the starting lineup will be.
Interesting. So, I'm just wary of time, Natalie. Have you got time to see what you think the Newcastle?
Yeah. Of course. Then we'll drop off.
So Chris, we've got I'm not sure who's got the background noise, but I can hear the TV going. I'm not sure who's.
Oh, sorry. We've got a sec. Sorry. Yeah, no worries, mate. Okay. So
now this is interesting, Chris, because you were mentioning before the show, and you're quite right. I'm not sure who is going to start here, but what do you think?
Okay, so I think Nick Pope will be in goal.
Yeah.
I think Kieran Trippier will be right back.
Okay.
I think centre backs will be Shaw and Botman.
Okay.
And I think Dan Burn will be left back. I think we'll revert back to our usual back four.
Back to basics.
Back to basics, yeah, absolutely. I think the midfield three, there will be some people who think that Joe Linton will play, but I believe Joe Linton's going to be saved for Wednesday against PSG. So I don't think Joe Linton will be in the 11. I think it will be Bruno Holden.
Okay.
On the right will be Sean Longstaff.
Where's Longy? There he is.
And I think it will probably be Elliot Anderson on the left.
Okay.
Yeah. And then up front, I think Callum Wilson will be back in the number 9 position. If fit. I know he's been. They said that he might be out. And I think on the left will be. I think it's got to be Anthony Gordon. Got to be Anthony Gordon. And I think on the right. Oh, do you know what? I'm going to say on the right, Jacob Murphy.
Jacob Murphy. Oh, okay.
I think Miggy might be saved for Wednesday.
Interesting. So look, I'm going to get Keith's thoughts in just a second, but just before you go, Natalie, 2 things. Yes. 1, where do you think you could potentially cause Newcastle some problems? And 2, what is your prediction for Saturday?
My prediction, irrespective of what my head says, I will never not back my team. Even at City away, I will always say Burnley will win because I'm an idiot that way. So I'm going to say we're going to get a point. I'm going to say 2-2. I think it'll be a really open game. I think there'll be goals scored, and I think we'll be able to get a point out of it. Collioshaw is, I know one of your listeners in the chat box said he'd already picked him up as well. That lad, Luca Collioshaw, is an incredible talent and is an unknown entity. That's it, Michael. unbelievably fast. So I think he can cause some trouble there. I think that's the thing. We press high, and we've got some exciting young attacking players who are, they're inexperienced, and they've got a lot to learn. But on the flip side of that, they're also fearless. They won't be fazed by your defenders. They won't be fazed by your attacking play. They won't be fazed at all that you won 8-0 last week. They just won't care. They'll just go and play their game, and they'll do it. What we need to do is get goals early. We need to take advantage of any early possession or any early dominance that we can, or any pace that we can dictate on the game, because our players are young and they're fast, but what that means is that they do burn out quite quickly, and on the 60-65 minute mark we're tired, and we don't necessarily have the strength in depth that some of our bigger sides in the division have to bring on other players. We've got a bigger squad than we've ever had in the Premier League. We've now got 2 first teams, which we've never had. But obviously our first team is, as most sides at the bottom of the league, far superior. So if we can establish some early dominance and we can dictate some flow of the game early doors, we need to take advantage of that. Watch out for Koleosho. He's a real talent. Josh Cullen, Ireland's Player of the Year a couple of years ago, tore up the championship last year. He's a really good player. He can cause some problems in central midfield. And I think if your listeners like defensive masterclass, they like, a lot of people do like defenders. Watch out for Jordan Bayer. We got him from Mönchengladbach. Really classy defender. He's got a lot to learn in the Premier League, as most of our players do. But I think you'll like the way he approaches a game. He's quite strong. He can play out from the back, building quite a nice little relationship with James Trafford, and has a tendency to go on a bit of a surging run down the middle. If you appreciate a good defender, keep an eye out for Jordan Bayer. But it's going to be a tough game, and we're not an idiot. We understand this, but we aren't here to make up the numbers. We'll either manage to get 2-2 or we'll get beat 12-0. It's going to be the way it's going to go. We'll be fearless and we'll go, do you know what, just go for it.
So just before I let you go, the one thing is that with teams that we're expected to beat, I should say, is at St James's Park, they tend to come and play a low block. Burnley, that sort of team that tend to come and play a low block, because they're the teams like Palace last season, Bournemouth, like another teams, Brentford even did it the other week. They're the teams we struggle to kind of break down. Are they going to be that team as we know Burnley of old, or are they going to come at us?
We will come at you. We don't. Vincent Kompany doesn't have that particular strategy in his armour, so we won't be coming there and sticking 11 men behind the ball. I think we've learned a little bit, and particularly having the experience of Charlie Taylor, an actual left back in the left back position rather than square pegs in round holes when we failed to sign a left back in the summer. We were supposed to be getting Ian Matson back from Chelsea, but he messed us around a little bit and stayed at Chelsea. Burned his bridges a little bit there, I think. And we have, we play, and we like to open the game up. And I think Vincent Kompany, kind of his philosophy is, well, while you've got the ball and you're attacking, they won't score. So why would you put 11 men behind the ball when you can try and not only defend by attacking, but maybe get your own goal yourself? If you're just going to try and defend for your life, you ain't going to score either. What's the point in trying to get a 0-0 draw? We're not here for that. So we could it could be another Sheffield United who could score 8 again if we capitulate, or it could be, I think it'll either. I don't think we'll win by a margin. I don't think we'll lose by a margin. It'll either be something like 2-2 or 8-0.
Will this man get a good reception, Nick Pope?
Oh God, are you kidding? Nick Pope and Trippier are absolute Burnley legends. And actually, this is really interesting because you talk a lot about players coming and going, and sort of like the attitude of certain players and the loyalty that you get. And it's probably a little bit unfair of football fans, to expect players to give everything for the badge and to be loyal to their club. It's a job. Are you loyal to your employer? If somebody else came along and offered you a promotion at another firm in your line of employment for a massive payday, you'd go. You'd hand in your notice and go, and footballers are no different. But we have this weird expectation of our players that you'll give everything.
Yeah.
What both Nick Pope and James Tarkowski did, though, because they were settled at clubs that gave a club that gave them a chance, and they were enjoying their time at Burnley in that squad, they stayed longer than they should have done because they wanted to try one more season to see if we would survive. They wanted to just help Burnley. James Tarkowski went to Everton, did exactly the same. Ben Mee at Brentford, he did the same. It's the holy trinity of Nick Pope, Ben Mee, James Tarkowski, and Trippier back in the day. They stayed and they learned their trade and they got their full experience and then left at their peak, meaning that Burnley got maximum value out of them, and I'll always respect them for that.
I wish Jeff Hendrick done that as well, Natalie.
I loved Jeff Hendrick. I know it didn't work for you, but he got an unfair rap at Burnley. That poor guy, Sean Dyche had him playing in every single position, bar the keeper. And he was just like, what do you expect him? And he just wanted to play, and he came on when he was needed, got a lot of abuse from Burnley fans, and then just left and went to you. And he was like, you know what, I've had enough. Poor guy was just beaten by the time he left. But no, Nick Pope will get an incredible, and so will Trippier as well. Yeah,
That's
of
good.
course, yeah, legend.
Natalie, if you like, I know you need to go now.
I do really now need to go. Yeah.
Massive thank you so much for you coming on and giving us your thoughts and opinions around Burnley. It's an absolute pleasure. Look, just before you go, where can we find you and your channel?
Sure. So I am the host and editor of the No Nay Never podcast. In most of our social media brands, it's at No Nay Never. And if anybody wants to, that's Burnley content. Also, as well, a very quick push, if I may. This is probably a little bit of a vanity point, but there's really not that many football content creators out there that are female fronted, and No Nay Never, it's my brand, and we've had it for a long time, and I'm the host of it. And to have female anchors for fan-led football content is really great. So if and we've got other women on the club as well, on the team as well. So do give us a shout, because there's not many of us, and we get beaten down quite a lot by a lot of the nonsense that comes with football fans. So that's just a little plug from me. Anybody wants to connect with me on a personal level, my Twitter handle and Instagram is at Natalie_Bromley. My DMs are open. Come and have a chat about football. Love to get involved. Love to be part of the football community. I'm a poker player as well outside of my job. So yeah, travel the world playing poker. So yeah, I just love meeting new people. So yeah, drop me a line if you want to connect. Love to.
We'll have to do it. We'll have to do a fan channel poker night.
Yes,
and we can get involved.
Bring all your money.
But Natalie, honestly, your knowledge is absolutely superb of all football, not just Burnley. And this is what we love about away days. This is why we get fantastic guests like yourself on. Absolute pleasure. Big up to yourself. And look, best of luck after Saturday. Is what we say.
Same to you guys. Same to you.
You take care. Have a great one, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
See you later. Great to have Natalie on. She's a superb guest and so knowledgeable on football. Amazing stuff. And if you want No Nay Never's Twitter handles and their channel, just give a like and a retweet to Loaded, myself, Chris, Keith. We've all tweeted out about the show. Daz as well. Give us a plug, and you can find their handles there as well. We're not finished with the tactics board yet, which is why it's still up there, because Chris has given his 11 for the game today, and the game on Saturday, should I say. And I wanted to get your thoughts and opinions on this, Keith. What do you make of that team? Do you agree with it? Would you change anything? Especially after the fantastic result yesterday. What are you going for?
I agree with Chris's points there on the selections for the back four for sure. I think he's going to bring them back in. Although I would say at some point maybe Livramento comes in later on in the second half to continue his experience. I think certainly I think Trippier will be back, but who knows, maybe in the second half, just to get the experience of if Newcastle are comfortably winning the game. This might be a game where you get some of those new players, younger players in, and get them a bit more experience, rest a few of the legs ahead of the big game against PSG next week. But yeah, I'm pretty much agreeing with that back four as it is. I think Bruno and Longstaff, that's your best, really, isn't it? Really, they seem to complement each other. But Bruno goes forward, Longstaff comes back and makes the cover, doesn't he? Really, so that's. I think Tonali might be rested for Europe again for that European experience next week, so I can see that working. I do like Anderson coming back into the side as well. Brilliant pre-season, so why not in this game? Just get him in the side, get him, resting some of those players. The only thing I would say, I agree with the point on Gordon. He's on fire at the minute in terms of form. He's probably the in-form player at the club at the minute. So, yep, for Gordon. Wilson, I do like Wilson back for the Premier League games for sure. Great record against Burnley as well. The only selection there that I've got a question mark on there from Chris's selection is Jacob Murphy, really. Because he played he did play last night. Will there be a rotation there because Miggy came on late? Does Miggy come in? It's that question mark, and I'm not sure, to be honest, because there's points for and points against for both being in the team, isn't there, really? Murphy's done nothing wrong. It could just be a selection thing. Do you want Miggy for Europe or do you want Murphy for Europe? Because Murphy played at AC Milan. Which way do you want to go with this, really? Is that part of how he's managing it, really, is he? Is it a case of, right, Miggy comes on late, then starts the next game with Murphy coming on late in this game? I don't know.
Do you know what? It's a great point, Keith, and that's kind of what I was wrestling with in my head, because, like, for me, we're coming up against PSG, and I think with us being at St James's Park, I have a feeling we might have a little go at PSG, and I think if you're going to have a go and you really want to push them and press them high, you want Miggy. Whereas I think with Murphy, he did the job, and he was brought in for the AC Milan game for this defensive work. Now, you could argue that, you're not going to technically need Jacob Murphy for his defensive work coming up against Charlie Taylor and the Burnley side. But, I can't think of anybody else who may start on the right unless he gives Tino another run out, or is he just going to... I don't know. It's a difficult one. I mean, Pete, what are your thoughts on the lineup as well? I mean, what do you think about that right wing position? Is the fact that Harvey Barnes out meaning that Gordon's definitely going to start on the left? Would you have wanted Gordon on the right and maybe put someone like Joe Linton on the left? What do you think?
Honestly, I think that the back five is the back five. I think you're absolutely right. That's going to start. I've got no issue at all with these guys here. I'm not sure about Elliot Anderson. I'm not sure whether it's going to be Joe Linton that potentially plays in that position. But I'll leave it as Anderson for now because he's been doing the job in the Premier League. This one here is the big one for me. I actually think Miggy Almiron will play and Murphy won't. For the reason that you've just said, Chris, is that he's not needed defensively against Burnley the same way that he would be needed against the PSG and Man City, an AC Milan, for example, because his doubling up role that he did with Trippier was so key. And actually, I think we sleep a little bit on the fact of he's actually an attacking threat. We watched the game last night, and we watched it on the watch along. I know you're watching it, Chris, as well. Actually, towards the end of the game, he was almost played as a striker, and he was the pace in and behind. And he can do that role as well as the game opens up. And I think he can be used in the Champions League as an unknown entity. PSG, let's face it, are not going to be looking at how do we stop Jacob Murphy in all due respect. They're going to be looking at Alexander Isak, Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Anthony Gordon. So little old, and I use this, little old Jacob Murphy, I don't think they're going to be prepared for. I think AC Milan was really surprised about with how quick he was and how fast he was and his defensive ability. But for this game, I think against Charlie Taylor, pace and direct running and trickery in this area is where I think Miggy Almiron could maybe get the difference and be the difference, but particularly in the attacking end of the pitch. And so I do think Miggy will start at the weekend. I think Wilson will start definitely as well. And it's going to be really, really interesting. Now, the key for me is, and I wanted to ask this Natalie before she left, is that were they going to play a low block? And I didn't think they would, because they haven't at all this season. And I think this could be where potentially Newcastle win the game. Because if they come to St. James's Park and they come at us,
they're in trouble.
They are in trouble. You're absolutely right. And I think, end-to-end football at St. James's Park, when you're playing against a Liverpool or a Man City, is something you don't really want to do. End-to-end football against Burnley, with all due respect, that's made for Newcastle, because we've got players that can cause them problems. Anthony Gordon, Miguel Almiron, Wilson, Gamirez getting forward, Bruno, Longstaff getting forward as well. Those guys can hurt them. Trippier playing up here, that relationship could well be key.
Pete, look at the way we started the second half. Against Man City, those high presses, those running teams down, forcing them into mistakes.
Yeah.
I think we saw Alexander Isak with a throw-in, or in fact, I don't even think he won a throw-in. I think they got the throw-in, but he blocked, the pass from going off, and the crowd erupted. If we start with the high press if we start the high press and we go at Burnley and we get any little bit of joy, and then the goals start coming, you could honestly, maybe I'm talking out of turn here, you could see another Sheffield United where we just tear them apart.
Honestly, Chris, at St. James's Park, a team that's going to come at us that are not as equipped as we are to deal with it. It's the reason why Palace, Bournemouth, and many other teams have had to sit the low block, because they knew they didn't have the quality to go at us and break us down. So they had to wait for the counter-attack. And I genuinely think the press here, Wilson, Gordon, Miggy in these spots, but you're going to get Longstaff here, Bruno pushes up here, Anderson will be around here. You're going to be pushing Bird, Ramsey, Cullen, and Browning back into these positions. And they're not going to be able to do this all game. For as good as they are, you're not going to see them do this. Sander Berge is great being a second fiddle, number 10 in and around here. But you ain't going to see him back here time and time again getting forward. He'll be shot by 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Ramsey as well. You're not going to see that constantly for the full game. And if they do, fair play, but I just don't think we're going to see it. But I think we're going to see an ultimate press from these guys. And Gordon is flying right now. So whoever he plays against, if he can do it to Trent Alexander-Arnold, then with all respect, Roberts, I think he's going to get the beating of him. Miguel Almiron in here. And I just think, I just think we're going to have too much for them in these areas. And look, just going really quickly, they're going to have to do a job on Wilson in order to keep him quiet in that area. Gordon is going to be making those runs there and there all day long. And we talked about it, Chris, before. He needs to mix up his runs. And he's doing that at the moment. He needs to go down the left and then cut in on the right. Keep Roberts guessing. Don't let him know where you're going to go. But we need the same for Miggy there and in there. We need to make those runs. Longstaff is going to be will be coming to create a little bit of a triangle here, but he's going to be creating that triangle here as well, and he's going to be key because I can't pronounce his name.
Koleosho.
Chris, I'd forgotten Koleosho.
Looks very good.
A lot of pace. Good. I don't really know too much about him, but he's got a lot of pace and he likes to get in there and he's going to be running into those areas. So at times, Longstaff is going to need to come back in to kind of shut that off. Shaw coming across here and then Botman doing the job coming in there. That's going to be key too. Sander Berge, I rate a lot. We were linked with him last January. I think he would have been a good signing for us, but he is more of an attacking sort of midfielder. He likes to get forward. He likes to link more of a number 10. He's not as good in his defensive responsibilities, certainly not back and forth. So I just think, I think I just think we're gonna have too much from. Honestly, I
Yeah.
genuinely do think
Yeah.
we're gonna have too much from. But guys, your initial thoughts before we come away from this. What like Joey, your last thoughts? What we thinking?
In terms of results, or do you mean in terms of
Just anything else that I tactically?
tactically? Yeah, I mean, I think Wilson is gonna have a lot of joy up against that centre back pair. And I mean, you know, Lewis Bayer. He's in my fantasy footy actually. I've had Lewis Bayer in, and I knew he came with a good reputation for Mönchengladbach. And you know, he's been a mainstay in that Burnley defence this season so far. My biggest thing is I can't see Burnley matching us in the midfield. I genuinely, I think, as you say, Sanderberg will be getting forward, but I think we'll nullify him. And obviously, Amdouni. I mean, he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna see much of the ball, if I'm honest. This is probably the first game this season that I'm going into pretty confident. Like you guys know, for the Sheffield United game, I thought it might be a little bit cagey. I thought we'd win it, and I think I said 2-1, but I thought it would be quite tight. But if we follow up with the performance that we had against Sheffield United, the fight back that we did against Man City through the week, I think potentially we could be 2 or 3-0 up quite early on in that first half. If they come at us at St James's Park, I think we could blow them away.
Keith, your final thoughts before we get to predictions?
Yeah, it's been a really good 3 games back to back, hasn't it? Really, when you look at those 3 games individually, the gritty 0-0 over in Milan, the hammering of Sheffield United, and the unexpected out the blue win yesterday, which with a completely changed team, effectively, 3 great results, and this could be a cracker, this game. I agree with the points that have been made as well about the midfield. I think, you know, Newcastle's midfield should grind them down. The likes of Bruno, he could have fun on Saturday, really.
Yeah.
And I'm not usually this confident, but I think certainly he could have fun with, you know, Bruno, exactly, with, you know, I just think there's more the experience there with Longstaff and Bruno.
Yeah.
I can't recall, but was that one of Sean Longstaff's first games back in 2018? Was it 2019 when he got that goal against Burnley? I'm just trying to remember, but I just remember around about that time when he played them. But I've certainly got the experience there because he was coming through back then. And this Burnley team, there's a lot of new faces, isn't there? Really, you know, there's an element of unknown there, but I'm confident that Newcastle at home with a raucous crowd will grind Burnley down.
Interesting, very, very interesting. Now, you know, a pleasure as always, you guys, for your opinions on the tactics board. It's great to have your opinions on there as well. And let's get to some predictions then, guys. But firstly, massive thanks to Shane, become a member for 21 months. I know it was, I think it's already been on already, but like massive thanks to you. And anyone else who wants to become a member, just click the blue button, but you have to do it on your laptop, I believe, to make sure that you become one of the loaded ultras. But thank you, Shane, all the way in Aussie, for doing that and becoming a loaded member. There we go, on the button as always. That little blue button there, $1.99 a month. Become a loaded ultra. Let's make it happen.
We need to do a giveaway as well, Pete. We need to do a giveaway. We do. We're overdue. We need one.
Yeah. Very, very soon. Let's make it happen. We'll
Definitely.
We'll get it out there for sure. But look, we're getting towards that prediction time. Guys, what do you think the score is going to be by the end of Saturday play? Chris, I'll come to you first.
I'm feeling really confident, mate. And I think Natalie has just further enhanced that confidence. So for me, I'm going to say 4-0 Newcastle.
Ooh, big scores. I'm going to come alongside you on that one. I'm going to say Newcastle 3-0 prediction. I'm going to go for the win. I think we're going to do it. I think what confirmed it for me is Natalie saying that they're not going to sit back in the low block, which means that we're going to get a lot of space to exploit. And now we get to the main man, Dr. Doom, 00, Stato. Come on, tell us what you think the score.
Darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour.
Extra intro for the suspense.
I like that.
Yeah, Burnley are playing a little bit better in the last couple of games in the league, certainly against Man United. But I would say I'm fairly confident in this one. I might live to regret this. It might be a clean sheet, but I've actually gone for this.
2-0, Keith. Wow.
Gone for the win. Come on.
Look at this.
2-0,
3-0, 4-0.
Yeah.
2-0, 3-0, 4-0. Here we go.
Yeah, yo.
In the chat. Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. So there you have it, people. Keith predicting a 2-0 Newcastle United win. 3 sheet goals. David, I love it. I love it, David. Brilliant stuff. Yeah,
I might need one if the result goes the other way.
That's right.
If we get the win and you predict it correctly. But yeah, lots of love in the chat for Keith and his predictions. We love it. Absolutely love it. Yes, I think we all need to lie down after that. But actually, I think we're on the right tracks. I think it's the first time we've all gone for the win. I think.
Yeah,
I think it's the first time we've got the old Shaw, Chris.
And we said it. And we said it, didn't we? Like, so convincingly. We didn't even like consider it. It was just like, yep, 4-0, 3-0. And then Keith's like, and you think Keith is gonna, see both sides, and Keith was like, I'm going 2-0. Love
and
it.
You've got the options, really. I mean, we're talking about options bringing off the bench. Tomorrow, Saturday, Newcastle are going to have the options, aren't we, really? If they need that extra flair, they can bring an Isak off the bench, can't they?
Yeah, there you go. Well, funny enough, Eddie Howe said after his press conference he's got a bit of a calf problem, got a tight calf, Alexander Isak. So we'll see whether he's on the bench or not. He might just rest him and wait for PSG. But fingers crossed, it's nothing serious and that he's back in contention. But Keith's gone for the win, 2-0, clean sheet. I think everyone needs to lie down. I do, Chris does, everyone in the chat. It's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Before we go, big up to 2 other new members as well. We've got Jason Scott, member for 14 months. Amazing stuff. And I know, Chris, I think you already put it on as well. But thank you, Lisa, for member for 18 months. Get your memberships in and become a part of the Loaded Ultras. And as Chris has said, prize draw is on the way. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for all your questions in the chat. So really sorry that we didn't get to all the questions for Natalie. She only had a short period of time. She ended up staying about half an hour longer than intended. So big up to Natalie and no name never. 00 Stato, absolute pleasure. Your stats are second to none. And it's a pleasure having you on. And thank you again for the watch along yesterday. Much appreciated. And of course, the main man, the old Brandon Blaze, back in business. There we go. Chris, pleasure as always. Guys, it's never ever a chore when you guys are around. And of course, everyone in the chat. Make sure you tune in. We'll be bringing more shows in the next week as well, along with a Burnley reaction. Keep an eye out on all socials with regards to when that is. But for now, we say goodbye. And of course, we do love playing away. Guys, how'd you like that?